Justin's mission is to ignite and fuel people with tools and disciplines to succeed. So some of y'all know he has a brand that's called Success Loves Discipline. So, yes. So he has a brand, and he's got shirts and things like that. So y'all may see some of other EOS implementers wearing that as well. And he is just a hair-on-fire visionary entrepreneur. I don't know if y'all know that, if you can tell from the way he is up here, but he is. And he is an expert EOS implementer, and he implements all these tools and disciplines that he has into his startup company, 2018 startup company called Rackley Restoration. And his true passion is really to bless people, grow companies, and supports 5-Star Life, which is a nonprofit that's on a mission to change culture by changing kids' mindsets. So that's his formal bio, but what I really love about Justin is 3 things. He's got 3 uniques, right? So we got to insert those 3 uniques in there. So it's really his humility, that he's real, and his love. Okay, those 3 things. So his humility, I mean, it's kind of a big thing being a closing speaker here, right? But he's so humble and still grateful that he had this opportunity. And I don't know if y'all know this, but it was just last Sunday that EOS Worldwide tapped him on the shoulder to become the MC for today, for this whole conference. Because Jill Young had something come up, and she wasn't able to make it. And we love you, Jill, and we miss you, Jill. But during that time, he was so humble, he texted me, Brian, and David, our close friends, and just simply asked for prayers. Because he wanted to do this right. He wanted to make sure that he showed up 100% and that he can do MC and closing speaker really well, because he wants to show up for you guys 100%. So it's just that humility that he has, and he knows he's not perfect. And so I love about that. And in his text, he really said, I just crapped in my pants. Okay, so he said something else, another word, but we'll go with that. So the second one is he's real. He is the real deal. And that's what I love about him. I mean, what you see up here, what you see in his videos, what you see in LinkedIn, he's like that all the time. He's just really authentic, and he's comfortable with himself. He knows his true self, and he shows up all the time. He's just really real, and he's about to get really real with you guys right now. And the last thing is love. He truly loves his clients and the people that he serves. And most importantly, he loves his wife, he loves his kids, and he loves God. He's got a strong faith, and he's not afraid to hide it. So Nicole's going to pull the plug on me really soon here, but I want to welcome him appropriately here, because everyone knows Justin by a certain phrase he says all the time, right? What is it? I'm freaking jacked. So I'm going to count to 3, and at the end of 3 is when we're going to say this, when all of us are going to welcome him with I'm freaking jacked. Y'all ready for that? So here we go. 1, 2, 3.
I'm freaking jacked.
All right, Justin. Welcome, brother.
I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
God's with
awesome.
you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm bothered. I'm very bothered right now. I've had a message in me for 10 months. I watched some clients do this, and I was mad. And I started thinking, why is this not working? Why are people not getting it? And it was painful. How many have watched leaders experience massive failure, and it's painful? Yes? Raise your hands. So this message it's real simple. One commitment every leader can make to be truly great. And I have a company. I've been running on EOS. I've been using the tools, and this is the exact words. As I'm watching my clients, I use every single tool in my company, and one of my leaders said this to me 2 years ago. If this is the kind of culture you are backing, I'm not interested. I've never had a boss. I don't need one now. And the day he left the company, as he was walking out, he said, you guys are running into a cash crunch. I hope you survive. He didn't say it to me. He said it to one of my team members. And he was not fired. He wasn't fired. I love the guy. And I'm like, he said that? Yep. He resigned. And within 3 months, I wrote my own company a check for $150,000. He was 100% right. That was 2 years ago. And my company's still here. We survived. And the frustrating thing is, I've watched a lot of my clients go through some of this pain, but I paid $150,000 for an issue that I don't feel got resolved 2 years ago. And I knew it. How many of you have seen issues happen and you paid for the mistake and you didn't know if it was resolved yet? Raise your hands. Anybody relate? This is real, and so there's a commitment that I think we have to make that happen. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you want your team to win? Just in your own head, think of a number. How bad do you want them to win? Scale of 1 to 10. Now answer the question. Okay, that's how I am. I don't look to your neighbor and say, he's not trying to suck. I'm not trying to suck. You don't know this about me, but the reason why I'm not trying to suck is because my biological dad paid my mom money to abort me. Because my mom was 18 when she had me, and so I'm thankful that she didn't take the money. And then several years went by, but she had 3 abortions in between because she wasn't trying to suck either. She just was taken advantage of, and her headspace was wrong. And so on this 5th child that was boiling up in her belly, she just said, you know what, I don't need this. If this is the best life has to offer me, I can't face another person and let them know that I went through another abortion. And so my mom put me to bed. She walked down the hall, and she hopped in the tub and grabbed a gun and put it to her belly. And right before she pulled the trigger, I think God dropped a thought in her head. And that thought was, if you pull this trigger, that little boy down the hall is going to think that it was his fault, and he's going to live the exact same life you're living. And so my mom put the gun down. She said, well, my life might suck, but I sure can be an awesome mom to these 2 little boys. And so literally my mom told me, she goes, from this big, when you could talk, you were saying, I'm a working a boya. She goes, you had these trousers on, and from 4 years old, I was saying, I'm a working a boy, Mom. I'm a working a boy. And I'm grateful that I have life. And I'm not trying to suck, and I'm using these tools the best that I can, and it still feels like I'm hitting freaking brick walls. Do you know what I mean? And so I believe the steps that I'm taking, I see that I'm breaking through because I'm still freaking here. And I'm going to keep taking steps. I don't care how many issues. My little brother's one of my best friends. And when my mom kept us and loved us, 3 years later, she met a guy. When I was 3, just after Seth was born, she met a guy, and this guy said, hey, I love you. And my mom was pretty smart by then. She's like, I've heard that a lot. And he goes, no, I really do. He goes, I thought kids came after marriage, but I want to have your hand in marriage, and I want to adopt both your boys. And when she looked at both your boys, there was a white one and a black one. I'm the white one. And so my mom accepted this guy as her husband, and my dad said it was the hardest decision I ever had to make because your mom had her tubes tied, Justin. And so I had to make a decision. Am I okay never having any of my own biological kids? And see, my dad grew up being called stupid his whole life. And at age 18, he's like, man, when I have kids, I'm going to tell them they're freaking awesome. And so my dad, I watched him struggle with his mindset because he was believing what his dad told him. And when I grew up, guess how I grew up? My dad telling me I'm freaking awesome. So guess what I think I am? You believe what you're told. And so the reason why I say I'm not trying to suck is my little brother now, he's just 3 years younger than me. We started a ministry called 5 Star Life. I'm no longer involved because I'm so freaking passionate about what I do. but I am dedicating my life to ignite and fuel people with tools and disciplines to succeed, and then I can take the revenue from that and I can invest it into 5-star life. And Seth today, after 18 years of doing, 20 years of doing what we're doing, there's over 30,000 students across the country receiving content about how to live a 5-star life. You know, like a 5-star hotel, 5-star mutual fund. And so I am a work and a boy, not trying to suck, leveraging all the tools I possibly can so I can make a dent in this impactful mission that my brother is leading. And that's why I'm not trying to suck. I don't need the money that I'm making now just for me. I'm trying to go exceedingly abundantly more than that. And so I am frustrated. I'm frustrated because I need to make this commitment to become truly great. And I'm not trying to suck. Look to your neighbor and just say, don't try to suck, dude. So what I'm going to do is I want to set the stage for this content. I'm a professional speaker, so I understand that there's an enormous amount of content, so I want to put you at ease. Everything that I'm going to talk about is in this QR code, okay? And there's way more in this QR code. This is a $250,000 lesson that I'm going to share with you, okay? This QR code is $250,000. That's not a gimmick. It's not a ploy. I've literally paid that much money in sucking. So that's the value of this card to me. So that is all there. What I want you to do is soak in just the message. And I know people, there's some people, like there's these integrators, and there's people that are semi-anal, and they just need to fill every single blank in. And I'm just saying, you can have my slide deck is on this QR code. You can have my slide deck and my PDF of the whole thing, because my expectation is you might want to have this conversation with your team. My only request is, please don't use my stories. Use your own stories, okay? You can tell people how you suck later. Okay, so I'm setting the stage. There's 4 sets of data that I'm going to give you. 4 sets of data, and you're going to be like, oh, dude, this is the end. Yeah, well, just suck it up a little bit. I'm in the 4th quarter, and I want you to soak the message in. So don't worry about all the content because you can get access to it. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, sweet. So, you know how Pat Lencioni wrote the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team? I thought it was always interesting. I'm like, positive psychology, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. What an interesting title. That's because most people can relate to dysfunction. And so I want to just talk about, this is my family. Isn't that a beautiful family? That's my bride. I proposed to her when she was a senior in high school. We've been married 28 years. We valiantly tried to have kids for like 5 years. Amazing experience, but nothing worked. So the far right is my oldest son, Cameron. We did an open adoption. And then the guy next to me is Jalen. He's 21 now. Cameron's 22. And then there's my sweet Maya. She's 19 years old. So that's my family. And we look so happy. We look so happy, don't we? It's a beautiful family, right? Yeah, thank you. Here's the impact of not being open, honest, and vulnerable. I want to talk about the impact, like Lencioni, this is the impact of not being open, honest, vulnerable, and transparent. There's an impact. There is a real cost. And look to your neighbor and say, you're paying this. Look to your neighbor and say, you need to level up. Look to your neighbor and say, you have no idea the cost that we are paying because of your dysfunction. Just say it. Radical candor. We got to set the stage for a minute. If I'm going to be your friend today, I'm going to stab you from the front. Is that okay? Okay. So this is the impact of what happens when you're not open, honest, vulnerable, and transparent. So there's 2 tracks. So I'm going to give you track 1 is organizational impact. Track 2, again, don't take these notes, just listen. So there's 2 tracks. And then I'm going to give you 10 actions to become more open, honest, and vulnerable. I'm going to give you 6 truths. So those are your 4 sets of data. Is everybody good? So I'm going to take you down 2 tracks. So here's the deal. That story I started out with, what he said to me was, Justin, I'm burning out. Justin, I am burning out. And I would listen to him, and I'm like, okay, what? I'm a very high trust, 9 quick start, 3 fact finder, 2 follow through leader, and I'm not in my company, Rackley Restoration. I'm not in the company. I'm just in the owner's box. Probably a mistake. So this is what he told me. I'm burning out. And I'm like, okay, dude, what do we need to do? How can I help you? And he would hem and haw, and he'd be like, no, but I got it. I know you're busy. I'm fine. And I wish I wouldn't have sucked at that moment, because what he was really telling me, because he was honest, I'm burning out. That was really true. But what I didn't know is that there were balls that were dropping that he knew about that I didn't know. I just knew he was burning out. But what was really going on in the organization, when someone is not open, honest, and vulnerable, there's crap that's happening. Balls were getting dropped. And then the third thing that happened is issues start compounding, but it's all hidden because he wasn't fully honest with me. And I'm clueless. I'm doing EOS session days, expert EOS implementer, 900 and some odd session days. I'm doing that, and my own company is burning out. But way more than burning out. Because then, see, there's a trickle down. So issues start compounding. Other people start hitting the ceiling when the issues compound. And still, not much was being said, because we're all running 100 miles an hour in the whirlwind. It's a fire and water restoration company, 24/7 emergency response. And so everyone's just saying, I'm burning out. And then customer service took it. Now it starts entering the outside of your company in customer service, and people start complaining. But if you're not in your company like I wasn't, you don't know all of that, and my leader's still telling me, oh, it's a slog, man, but I got you. And then quality and profitability took a hit. Now that's when it starts hitting on the lagging indicator of a scorecard or on the financial review set. But there was all kind, we just got to make this tweak, we got to make this tweak. And then leaders were removed. So let me tell you the story of what happened with this guy. He said, I'm burning out. So I'm like, let's bring in some help. This guy was my visionary and my ops leader. Don't ever do that. Bad idea. He was my visionary and ops leader, so I brought in an integrator. And the integrator started uncovering more truth. And so we did, Gino gave a talk a couple years ago about after 2,000 sessions, his greatest aha. And so I sat my team down and I said, these are 7 questions. And we answered them, and every single person in the room said that leader did not have the capacity to be great at ops because he was burnt out and overwhelmed. He didn't like that, and he left. I was like trying to coach up. I thought he was a superstar. And he's the one that said, if this is how you're going to treat people like me, I don't need a boss. I've never had a boss. And he walked out. Recruiting gets rushed. Fill seats with warm bodies. Leaders get removed. Sometimes they're A players, sometimes they're B players, sometimes they're C players, sometimes they're D players. But you lose them all because when would have I liked to solve this issue? Like I solved it because he self-selected out and I paid $150,000 for that mistake. That was just one. What I uncovered was there was 15 jobs that we were underperforming on. And that was after he left, we realized we had massive frustration and chaos inside of my own little company. Does this make sense? Did I tell you I'm trying not to suck? So, while all of that is happening, okay, there's a whole nother dynamic that is at play. It's the same exact timeline of what's happening in the external part of the organization, but there's an internal dynamic that's happening, and it's relationships. And so this is where it gets awkward, hitting the ceiling. We're picking it up. I want you to see this because I'm going to teach this. Hitting the ceiling. So I'm just going to do this. Hitting the ceiling. Do you guys know what that is, right? Someone hits the ceiling. You with me? Why is it so freaking hard to tell someone they're hitting the ceiling? Because there is a vulnerability zone. Is it up yet? There it is. Thank you. So I realized my guy was hitting the ceiling, and he didn't like sharing that he was hitting the ceiling, and I'm trying to help him. There's this vulnerability zone that you as leaders need to spot it. And the faster you spot the vulnerability zone, the earlier you catch it, the less pain you're going to experience, because no one likes to lose, right? Well, this frustrates me. I'm not a bodybuilder, but there is a group of people that they love hitting the ceiling. They are bodybuilders. Their mindset is to gain muscle, what must I do? I have to go to failure or I have to go to fatigue, and they brag about it. They're like, meatheads in the gym. They're going in there and they throw the weight, and then they go and they go and they go. Like the first few sets, that's not even the mission. The juice, the excitement is when they go to that moment where they're pushing, and then it's not working anymore. It's not going up. And they're like, yeah, baby, yeah. That's meathead talk. And they got their buddy is like, yeah, I got you. True? You've seen this. And they're up. They get up and like, oh, that was awesome. That's what they do. And that's for one workout. And what we do in corporate America, we hit the ceiling, we're like, oh, I hope nobody sees that. I'd hate to grow anymore. I'd hate to go beyond my current capabilities. I hope they don't see that I'm failing. And we have this awkward fear-based conversation about, oh yeah, they're hitting the ceiling. It's too bad, really. And I got the meathead going, let's go, I got you. And I got leaders of multi-million-dollar companies talking awkwardly about hitting the ceiling. Are you kidding me? Change the talk track on hitting the ceiling, leaders. The reason you don't know what's going on is you don't have the support to say, I got you, but I need you to be honest with me. So change the talk track on this. So this other dynamic that's at play. I'm clicking. Just one more. There's this relational impact. So I'm going to go through this fairly fast. In my company, all of this happened. So confidence decreased in that leader and in myself watching what was going on. Insecurity went up. Ego continues to mask the issue. I got you, bro. It's good. I'm stressed out, but it's good. He didn't want to say where he was hitting the ceiling. Relationships started to take a hit because it's still what we could feel. We weren't getting the truth on the table. Look to your neighbor and say, please get the truth on the table. Miscommunication, blame game, people are more easily offended. Resentment and bitterness grew. Team dynamics began faltering, pointing the fingers. We tried to have hard conversations to grow people, got offended. Offense creates bitterness. Bitterness creates apathy. Apathy just kills things. So team dynamics, trust eroded rapidly. In that situation, it eroded rapidly. Some people, it takes a long time, so they have the quit in their head, but they're still here thing. They've quit, but they're collecting a paycheck. They're not all in. Backstabbing increases. This is all happening at the same time of those external dynamics. Relationship avoidance increases, apathy sets in, and then the relationship dies. So that's in my business side. While all of that was happening, a year ago now, can I go back? Well, I don't need to. I'd love to. Can I go back? I want to just show this family. That was a year ago. And I freaking love my family. We love each other. But when that picture was taken, I had a busy Saturday and several meetings, and my wife, when I got done, my wife was like, hey, you got a minute? I'm like, sure, sweetie, let's go. And so I had no idea what we're doing. So she said, let's go for a drive. I'm like, okay. You normally go for walks. That's what we do, Jenny and I. And so she said, let's go for a drive. And so she, pulled out. We went, and right by my house is an elementary school. And we went to that school. I'm like, that's a weird drive. Couldn't we just kind of walked? And so we're on a drive. We're sitting now in the parking lot. And my wife looks at me. And she goes, I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay. What do you want to tell me? She's like, you're a grandpa. I'm a what? She goes, you're a grandpa. Now, normally, I think you usually have a 9-month to 6-month notice that you're going to become a grandpa. And she looks at me and she says, you are a grandpa to a grandson that was born on May 4th. It was May 16th. To a grandson that was born on May 4th. And she goes, Cameron didn't know how to tell us. It's not the perfect situation, sweetie. But you're a grandpa. Now, because I have life, I told you my story. Immediately, I'm like, I'm so glad she chose to keep the baby. Because a lot of people would just decide this thing wasn't a thing, and so I don't want this. But this amazing lady, she wanted this baby. And so she chose to give life to my grandson. So I'm a grandpa. So I swallowed that, and I'm like, oh. But the first thing that hit me was I have a son. And I wanted to be the kind of dad that would that my son would come to me when he's struggling. And he's kind of like, dude, I made a mistake. I wasn't planning on this. And I don't know what a dad looks like. I mean, I know what you look like, Dad, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready, and I'm afraid. And I wanted to be that dad that he could have come, and I'm recognizing I wasn't for him. And then I'm like, whew, I'm a faith-based guy that's not trying to suck. My dad that adopted me, he rebounded so many basketballs that he can't extend his elbow past here and he can't touch his shoulder because of the thousands of basketballs he rebounded for me. And my son's having a struggle bus and he's not comfortable coming to me. And that same summer, this same picture, this is all happening it's just hitting me hard. And I took a clarity break. I'm like, I have got to, what is going on in my life? So I literally went and I took a clarity break. And Gino says you can solve your things. He calls them matzo balls. You can solve it 1,000 different ways. So my way is a clarity break with Jesus, and I just start emptying my head what is going on? And right in here and in here, I'm like, my son should have told me. I'm a good dad. I'm all this. And all of a sudden, my reality was this relationship that I'm currently having with my son is my fault. Yeah, maybe he made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't planned, but the relationship is my fault. And so literally, this little clarity break, a thought hit me, and the thought took me back 12 years ago where I'm listening and I'm having a conversation. I get angry with my 2 boys. I'm a 9 quick start. I'm intense. Have you noticed I'm intense? So I'm intense good. I'm probably intense bad. So something happened where they did something I didn't like, and I'm kind of this self-righteous, I'm this dad. You guys can't do this. And so I walk into my kitchen. I'm just having this thought. I'm frustrated. And this little thought came into my head, says, Justin, anger doesn't produce the righteousness that I desire. And you know what I did with that thought? I'm assuming, this is me and my faith, so I'm not putting it on you. But what I thought was, man, this is a really good thought, God. I'm going to, that's really good. I'm going to think about that. I put that freaking thought on the shelf. I'm like, but he really should respect me. So I took that thought, I put it on the shelf, and I had my ego. And so all that stuff started to do this with my oldest son. Do this. And so I'm like, this is a consequence of me allowing and tolerating. There is a cost I paid that I don't want you to pay. You follow me? And I'm paying the same cost. It's a different cost. But in my personal life and in my business, it's the same freaking thing. The relationship was fractured. And so I'm going to go forward, and I want to talk about 10 things. I want to talk about 10 actions you can take to break through the ceiling. And so this is on your notes, and I'm going to go through this fairly fast. So, action number 1. After you see all this stuff happening, you're like, okay, how do I become more vulnerable? And so I'm just going to ask you this question. When would you like to see the truth behind the issue? When would you like to? When would you like to pay for the issue? Look to your neighbor and say, you're going to pay for your issues. How would you like to pay for your issues? Like ideally, I'm smart, I think you're smart. Wouldn't you like to pay for the issue as quickly as possible and see the issue as quickly as possible? Wouldn't you like that? Organizationally, personally, like the moment you see it. Well, I was hitting the ceiling as a parent, and my ego got in the way of building the kind of relationship that I want. Now, I'll tell you more later, but it just happened that way. So action number 1 is be humble. This is my daughter. So what happened with me is I didn't understand that when you parent one way to your oldest child, that it sends a message to your youngest child. And so last year, while Cameron had a baby and I became a grandpa, my daughter told me, because we had a little argument, and my daughter told me she doesn't trust me. And I'm like, well, let's get to the root of this. Let's talk about this. And she's like, I don't want to talk about it unless I have a third party, Dad. Okay, really? Yep. And so a year ago, my daughter is talking to me, and she said, Dad, I watched how you treated Cameron, and so I kind of lived a double life, and you have no idea what I've been doing. And she just unloaded some stuff. She goes, so I just didn't know how to tell you, but I hate living this double life, and I'm just going to tell you because you and I are a lot alike, and we butt heads a lot. She's like my mini entrepreneur. And she goes, and so I didn't trust that you'd know how to take all this information. And so that's my daughter, and she loves equestrian. And so now this issue compounded into this other issue with my son, compounded issue with my daughter, paying another price, and I was even clueless because she never mentioned this to me. And so I give you this picture because I stayed humble, and when she went to Texas last August, we both were intentional to rebuild the relationship, and we've made progress. And she called me in December, 3 weeks before she was coming home for Christmas, and she goes, hey, Dad. She goes, what you doing? When she says what you doing, I have no idea what's about to come out. I'm like, not much, just, what's going on? She goes, well, I've been thinking. She goes, Dad, you know a lot of people. You know a lot of guys. Where's this going, sweetie? She's 19. She goes, Dad, I'm in Texas. I'm in this horse barn. I'm never going to meet the guy that I really want to meet. And you know a lot of guys. She goes, I think you could hook me up with one. She gave me a list. She goes, I'm a high achiever. I'm a go-getter. She goes, and I'm not going to meet him in this barn. She goes, so I just thought, I'm looking for someone, the athlete and, successful. And Dad, you know a lot of successful guys. I know that. What you mean to tell me my daughter needed a third party and we've rebuilt and now she's wanting me to help her find a man? And so I thought it just made sense. Hey, if you have any young men in your family, this is my daughter, Maya. And you need to go through me. That is my one stipulation. So 10 actions. Action number 1, be humble, take responsibility. When you take responsibility and you're humble, people can recover. Number 2, take clarity breaks, focused on uncovering the truth. I can't tell you how many issues, how many pain points, how many things, but if you're not regularly taking clarity breaks, focused on uncovering the truth, it blows my mind. People take clarity breaks and they cover the top 80% of the biggest issues, but it'd be like me telling my wife, hey, sweetie, I love you. I love you. I promise I'll be 95% faithful every month to you. And we'll have an amazing relationship, 95% strong. EOS is 80% strong, so we are good. 95%. And you all know my marriage would be a train wreck if I was only 95% faithful, and yet I'm looking at you, just like my clients, and I ask my clients, hey, scale of 1 to 10, how open, honest, and vulnerable are you as a leadership team? And I get answers literally across the board, but more than not, it's 5, 6s, and 7s. That's most of the answers that I get when I explain the type of vulnerabilities that I'm talking about. And there's a cost to that. So you got to take clarity breaks and you got to ask yourself the hardest questions. And you got to be willing to say the hardest things, but you can't say them if you haven't asked about it and thought about the truth. Make sense? Number 3, you have to leverage the meetings. Again, it's one thing to take clarity breaks so you can get yourself fixed, not fixed, but you could get clear. But then you got to leverage the meetings and you got to ask the hard questions with your team. As goes you as the leader, if you don't ask yourself the hard questions, then you will not be willing to ask them the hard questions. So these are actions, not necessarily in order, but I think there's an order for them. So leverage the meetings, and there's all kinds of meetings. LMA one-on-one, just spur of the moment. Yes, you can have a hard conversation. Do not wait for a quarterly conversation. You see something that's not working, go have the conversation. L10 meetings. Same page meetings. So many times I ask visionary and integrator, scale of 1 to 10, how honest are you being with each other? 7.5 to 8. What do you need to do to get to a 10? This is like your partner. Stop holding back. Clear the air meetings. Listening sessions. In my QR code, I unpack this. This is from Bob Chapman, Barry Wehmiller Companies. Wrote a book called Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Treating Your People Like Family. He wrote this thing. He said listening sessions, skip level meetings where you just sit and you just listen. You ask questions. You create an environment where you get the truth from them. Like your kids will tell you, you can get the truth from them. Then state of the company address meetings. Some of my favorite state of the company address meetings, a part of EOS Worldwide, is when I look at Mark and Kelly and they come up and they say, hey, we think we made a couple mistakes. In the middle of the state of the company address, and they share with our community, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why I love them. They make me better because they do exactly what they say. They enter the danger in front of all of us, and we just get better. They're just issues. Look to your neighbor and say they're just issues. Number 4, you have to do the work to rebuild trust. You have to rebuild trust. You have to choose to mend the relationship. I have watched leaders lose relationship because they were offended and they didn't get the issue on the table fast enough, and now they don't like the person. Or the person doesn't like them, and it's not mutual to rebuild the relationship. So now there's more cost in the organization because they didn't choose to rebuild. It's just easier to retrain and find somebody else. Out goes more dollars, and you didn't solve the root of the issue. Because, oh, by the way, every human is going to have issues. And so you just bailed on the truth again. Number 5, you got to leverage 360s. Now, I want to be careful here. People spend a lot of money on 360s. I did a 360 when I found out that I was a grandpa. I was in church one day, and this pastor gave this list of really good parents, and then there was these success parents, and then there was these toxic parents. And I have a tagline called "Success Loves Discipline," and he's talking about success parenting is not good. And I hated that he said that. And I looked at my son, I'm like, oh my gosh, And then he kept talking and explaining what the difference between real love parent and then a success parent and then toxic. And I'm like, we're doing a 360 right freaking now in church. So my daughter's there, Jalen's here. I write out on this sheet of paper. I do a little diagram. Loving parent, success parent, toxic parent, percentage, please. I write this on. Jalen, Maya. I pass my journal down the aisle. I first give it to Jalen. Jalen is my integrator personality. He's trying to listen to the message. And I slide over. He's like, didn't even fill it out. I'm like, I look at him like, you can't do that. He's like, I'm like, freaking, I hand it down to Maya. She looks at it. She looked at it. She goes, in 5 seconds, she had the whole thing filled out. I'm like, that was a little too fast. I wanted more processing. And I look at it, and it's like 40, it was like 25% loving parent. It was like 80, I'm trying to do the math. It was 10% toxic parent, and it was 25% good parent, and the rest was in the middle. Man, that was a 360 that was like straight to the chest. And then I manipulated Jalen all the way to home. I'm like, dude, you got to help me, brother. You got to help a brother out. You're 21, and it's all in the past. Just give me the feedback, man. And he gave me 50-50. At least I wasn't toxic to him. Look to your neighbor and say, you need to get feedback. Okay, leverage 360s. Oh, that's my daughter. It's my daughter again. The 2 other boys, they're single too, in case you have a daughter. Okay, got to go through me. Number 6, you got to leverage the delegate and elevate tool. John Maxwell says sometimes you can pay too much for your dream, and that was my recognition, and I probably am still paying too much for my dream, and I'm aware of this, and it's an addiction I'm working on, but you got to commit to think and do it at a higher level. You need to reassess your life mission. My wife and I are in the process of doing this. It's been very helpful. We are aligning the company VTO to right size to the personal VTO. That is happening. Look to your neighbor and say, please go get some therapy. When you're stuck, you don't know what you don't know. So my wife and I, last month, we went to a marriage intensive. You could do the group therapy session, and we were both like, we don't care about other people's problems. We just want to work on ours. So we had 2 therapists in a room the size of like this, and my wife and I for 2.5 days. It was a marriage intensive where I guess most of the people that go there are almost divorced. We were not, but it was 2 hours of paperwork, and we're in this marriage intensive, and there's 2 things I left from that whole thing. One thing, amazing tools, and the second thing I pulled away from, I'm so glad I never have to be in a room with that therapist again. Great tools, though. Number 9, do the work. Actually change your actions. I went to Cameron. I said, dude, I am so sorry. I love you. I didn't realize how high of a bar I had on you, but I love you. And so I said, if you ever have any advice for me, I'd love to have it. And he looked right at me. He goes, yeah, you were hard, Dad. He goes, you know what? I'm good with it, though, because you made me better. And you know what we could do, Dad? We could just do stuff together. That'd be awesome. So I'm trying to change. I'm trying to incorporate some new things that we can do together. And number 10, for me, this is probably my number 1, but I just got to say it. Everybody solves their issues a different way. For me, I just lean into my faith, and I elevate my belief that what happened in the past doesn't have to be what happens in the future. So I showed you the actions. I want to share these 6 truths because this is for me important that you understand the speed of vulnerability determines the speed of breakthrough. It's on your bookmark. Number 2, excuses are free to give and discipline is free to use. When you hear excuses, that's when you capture the issue. That's when you get it on the table. Excuses are free to give. I'm burning out. Capture it. What's at the root of that? One is going to cost you more than you want to pay. The other is you'll pay you more than you thought possible. It's discipline. Number 3, truth equals freedom. Look to your neighbor and say, no truth, no freedom. A little truth, a little freedom. A lot of truth, a lot of freedom. Do you know the $150,000 that I paid? No truth. Those dollars had no freedom. I had to send those dollars back into my company. Number 4, thinking and doing. Thinking and doing. Your current level of thinking about your leadership and your current level of doing is producing the kind of results that you have in your organization, and either you are reaping the rewards of that or you are paying the cost of that. If you want more, you have to become more, and you have to break through your ceilings to get to the next level. Number 5, EOS mastery actually makes it easier to become more open, honest, and transparent. EOS mastery makes it easier because all of the signals are up there. All you have to do is ask the questions. All you have to do is say the hard things. If you're running on EOS and if you're using the tools at a level of mastery, you see everything faster. So don't have weak scorecards and weak level 10s and weak quarterly conversations. Master them. And then for me, success loves discipline. Because events like this challenge us. Events challenge us, but process changes us. You need discipline to break through ceilings. You need discipline to have these conversations. So these are 10 actions that will help you break through the ceiling. So my question is, will you commit? Will you commit to leveling up so you don't have to pay the cost that you've seen other people pay? Benny, Gino, Kim Scott, what I'm saying, there's a real cost. Will you commit inside of your leadership team to never again delay and bring 100% truth? Will you commit? So at the bottom of the page, I'm laying down a plea that says you are currently paying in your business very real costs. And it's because of your inability or unwillingness to dig this deep to get to the root. And all the tools are there. They're all there. And the people are there. Someone needs to lead them to have this level of conversation, and I'm looking at them. We've spent two and a half days together soaking in amazing content. What are you going to do with this? I believe that my message alone is a $250,000 message if you moved faster on that 5% that is holding you back. There's 5% that is wicked difficult. And that's what's holding me back, and it's what's holding you back, and none of us are trying to suck. Truth? And so I'm going to send you off with this plea. Take action on what I'm saying to you right now. There's a cost, and it's that speed of vulnerability determines the speed of breakthrough. I got so sick and tired of dealing with some of the stuff that I am having the most raw conversations everywhere I go because I just want you to win. You feel me? I love every single one of you. I hope you got value from our 45 minutes together. And I want you to leave and go take a clarity break to unpack all of this stuff so that you and I don't have to suck as much. Is that good? Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're all awesome. I'll see you in DC. You're loved. Let's go. I would love for you to give me feedback. So if you want to do that, get that QR code. Thank you. This conference is over. Let's go.